What is the difference between advice and advise? If you've ever found yourself wondering whether to use advice or advise in a sentence, you're not alone. These two words are often confused because they sound similar, but they have distinct meanings and uses. Let's start with advice. This is a noun, which means it's a thing or an idea. When you ask for or give advice, you're talking about an opinion or recommendation on what to do. For example, my teacher gave me some great advice on how to improve my writing. Here, advice is the information or guidance being provided. On the other hand, advise is a verb. It's the action of giving that advice or recommendation. So, if someone is advising you, they are performing the act of giving you advice. For instance, my teacher advised me to read more books to improve my vocabulary. In this case, advise is the verb describing the action of giving the advice. To make it clearer, think about it this way. If you are talking about the act of giving guidance, you use advise. If you are talking about the guidance itself, you use advice. For example, I advise you to get some advice from a professional. Here, I advise is the action and advice is the thing being given. Another way to remember the difference is by their pronunciation. Advice ends with an S sound like ice, while advise ends with a Z sound like realize. In sentences, this difference becomes apparent. For example, the doctor's advice was to eat healthier, where advice is the noun. In contrast, the doctor advised me to take the medication twice a day, where advise is the verb. When asking for guidance, you would say, "Please advise me on current travel restrictions," because you're asking for the action of being advised. But if you're referring to the guidance itself, you'd say, "I appreciated her sound advice on how to invest my money." Advice is also an uncountable noun, meaning you can't say an advice or advices. Instead, you might say a piece of advice or two pieces of advice. In summary, advice is the information or guidance you give or receive, while advise is the act of giving that information. By understanding this simple difference, you can use these words correctly in your writing and speaking.